Good morning, my dear students. In the previous class, we had discussed about the first part of the three questions. And in that part, we had discussed about a king who was looking answer for three questions for his own peace of mind and good governance. And he sent many messengers throughout his kingdom, and many wise men came to his palace to tell answers. But he was not satisfied with the answers told by the wise men. Then he heard about a wise man who is a hermit and planned to go and visit this hermit. So, on his horseback, accompanied by his bodyguard, he went to see the hermit in the small forest. And he set apart this bodyguard and horse and went alone to the hermit's home because the hermit was leading a simple life. And he asked these three questions to him and asked for his answers. But the hermit did not say anything. He was doing his work. He was an old man. So the king helped him and he was digging the ground. The second time he asked the hermit for answers. That time also the hermit kept silent and he continued working till afternoon. And when that time the king again asked the hermit, by the time a bearded man came towards them screaming. Till this part we had discussed in the previous class, and we are moving to the second part of the chapter, three questions. And in this chapter, in this second part of the lesson, we are going to deal with the hermit and the king who is getting answers from the hermit. And the bearded man rushed towards the hermit to because he was severely wounded and severely bled, and the king and the hermit nursed him, and he again came back to the life. By the time he told the king that he was the enemy of the king, and now he is repentant about his enmity towards the king. And finally the king is getting answers to his three questions. Okay students, now you take your text and keep your finger upon the text and listen to me carefully. Three questions, part 2. The king turned round and saw a bearded man running towards them. You know, the king was asking questions to the hermit, while the king told, a man is coming. A man is running towards us. So the king turned back, and what did he see? He saw a bearded man. Bearded man means a man who is having hairs on his chin. So a bearded man was coming back, and his hands were pressed against his stomach. His hands were pressed against his stomach, from which blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. So when the man reached the hermit's home, he fainted and he fell down. Fainted means he was unconscious. Fainted means lost consciousness. So he was unconscious and laid on the ground before the king. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. So what did the hermit and king do? The hermit and king removed the man's clothing where he was pressed his hands against his stomach, and saw a large wound in the stomach. So the king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing because the wound was so deep that the blood was flowing severely. The king redressed the wound until At last the bleeding stopped. So he redressed again until the bleeding was stopped. The man felt better and asked for something to drink. So he was conscious again and asked the king for getting to drink a little water. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. By this time, the sun had set and the air was cool. So it was evening, because since the morning till afternoon he was digging the ground. Then afterwards he was nursing the hermit. So it was evening. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man to the hut and laid him on the bed. So what did the king do? The king, with the help of the hermit, carried the man from the ground and laid him inside the hermit's hut. The man closed his eyes and lay quiet. The king, tired by his walk and the work he had done, lay down on the floor and slept through the night. So what did the king do? The daytime he was working at, a king. He was always sitting on a throne and ruling the country, and he is not doing any kind of muscle work. So after doing a day's work, he felt very tired of that. After digging the ground, what did he do? He nursed the king. So throughout the day he was doing a lot of work and he was tired, and after that he slept. And where did he sleep? He also slept on the floor. When he awoke, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was or who the strange bearded man lying on the bed was. The king woke up, and when he woke up, he saw a bearded man was lying beside him. And he has to think a little bit to remember what had happened yesterday and who the bearded man lying beside him. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice. When he saw that, the king was awake. So the bearded man woke up early, and when he saw that the king also woke up, he asked the king, "Forgive me," in a weak voice, because he was weak, and again in a weak voice he told, "Forgive me. I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. "I do not know you. Then why do you say, 'Forgive me' to me?" Then the bearded man said, "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you, because you put my brother to death and seized my property." So why the bearded man was an enemy to the king? It is because he was doing the king killed the man and seized his property. "I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home." So why did he become the enemy of king? The king had killed the bearded man's brother and seized his property. So he planned to kill the king, because whenever he was on the way, he saw the king was going to the hermit's home. So he was waiting for the king to come back. But the day passed and you did not return. So, left my hiding place, I came upon your bodyguard who recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you had not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. Now, if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant, and will order my sons to do the same. Forgive me.